Greetings all. This video is intended to serve as an introduction to a new feature in the Realtrac Performance ERP system. This new feature allows you to capture costs associated with specific jobs and produce a set of reports that will easily allow your business to file a Form 6765 with the United States Internal Revenue Service. Form 6765 is officially titled the Credit for Increasing Research Activities, but it's commonly referred to as the R&D Tax Credit. In addition to showing off our software, we will try to introduce you to some of the criteria involved with filling out Form 6765. Before we get any further, I will mention that this is neither legal nor tax advice. Please consult with your accountant and work with them in preparing the credit to make sure you're complying with all the appropriate rules and regulations. All right, that business out of the way, the R&D tax credit is an incredible deal for any eligible jobs you run in your shop. Business owners are able to reclaim a percentage of their costs that went into these jobs. So what's an eligible job? Roughly speaking, an eligible job must be a job involving a new process, and there must be a chance of failure for the process and the job. In other words, if the job does fail, there's a chance you will not be paid for your expenses associated with the new process. All right, so we're going to run through everything you need to know in order to prepare your claim. We're going to start at the beginning, identifying an eligible job, and go all the way through generating our final reports. A rough overview of the steps we're going to take are as follows. I'm going to tag a job so I can easily find it and tell our reporting system which jobs are R&D eligible. Either when the job is closed or at the end of my tax year, I'm going to review my buyout expenses, both material and subcontract, and determine which expenses I believe are eligible for the credit. I'm going to use our new R&D interface to set my fiscal year and run our new R&D labor and R&D reports by hand. And then I'm going to give the reports to my accountant, and I'm going to plan how I'm going to help my business grow with my new tax credit. Let's get started. Okay, so first we're going to find and tag our job. I'm going to pull open my Realtrac system and use our search tools to find a job I have in mind. Straight out of Back to the Future 2, I made a sweet new hoverboard for one of my customers. So I'm going to search jobs and look for the word hoverboard. You can see I've made a few now, but the original prototyping job meets my criteria for an R&D eligible job. So I'm going to open this job and add a tag. Now our tagging system is designed to be completely flexible and open. You can technically add any tag you want here to make the job stick out, but Realtrac recommends you follow the pattern of using the letters RD along with the fiscal year in which you wish to claim credit. So in this instance, I'm going to add the tag RD15. Now if I was still working on this job during my 2016 fiscal year, I could add a comma or a space and add the RD16 tag as well. Our tagging system is totally flexible and open to whatever you wish to use it for. All right, so that's the first step. Pretty difficult, right? Now, on to determining which of our buyout costs are eligible for credit. We need to do this since not all costs are necessarily eligible to be claimed on Form 6765. For example, in the job in question, my expenses for shipping the finished pieces to my customer are probably not eligible. My work was complete at that point. We had a proof of concept that was accepted by our customer, and we were shipping our final pieces. If we look at the total buyout section for my job, we can see I incurred $1,776.70 in costs for my materials, and $2,212.40 in expenses for subcontract work and services. So my next step here is to open up the Bill tab on my Realtrac job and take a look at these costs a little more in depth. You'll see in our bill we have some expenses for the material, some subcontract, and also that freight charge that we noted earlier. You'll note also here on this interface we have an R&D bill button. This pulls up the bill interface, but it's only for R&D eligible costs. It's important to understand that bill lines added to the R&D bill will not add any cost to your job. Instead, these bill lines are only used when creating the R&D tax credit reports. While we could copy and paste the bill lines and let Realtrac total them up, For the sake of expediency, I am simply going to hand type in a summary of my material and subcontract expenses. I plan on claiming the entirety of my $1,776.70 in material, and I'm subtracting my $200 in freight charges, and I'm going to claim $2,012.40 in subcontract expenses. As previously mentioned, you can approach this bit of bookkeeping with a few different philosophies. When you receive items on the PO, you could quickly come over to the R&D bill and immediately copy and paste an eligible expense. Alternatively, as part of your procedures for officially closing a job, one of your folks could be in charge of updating the R&D bill appropriately. Probably as a resort of last choice would be the process of making all the changes when it comes to tax season. We would recommend caution with this process, especially if you have more than a handful of R&D eligible jobs. Cramming all this work last minute can lead to transcription errors, meaning you could miss out on some expenses. And since this is a tax credit, it's almost as good as cash. Accuracy is key. Since we've gotten this far, you may pause for a moment and ask, how are my labor costs being tracked? Well, the good news is Realtrac is always automatically tracking your labor and overhead costs. When it comes to the R&D tax credit, you are only able to claim the flat hourly rate of your employee. You cannot use the fully loaded cost for your employee, i.e., including vacations, time off, insurance, taxes, nor can you claim the expenses for your machinery. So if we diverge for a second and go over to the System Setup group and pop over to our Employee tab, you'll notice the Realtrac system has two columns for your employee's hourly rate. One that is simply called Rate, and the other that is labeled Base Rate. The base rate is the flat hourly rate you pay your employee. The only place that the base rate is used is when calculating the labor costs for the R&D reports. In every other location in the system, Realtrac uses the fully loaded rate. Hopefully everybody understands what that is and why there's a difference between the two. All right, let's move on to what we do when it comes tax time. All right, let's say the tax season is upon us and I'm ready to produce my reports for my accountant or tax professional. We've covered how to tag jobs so they're easy to find. My team has been updating my R&D bill page with eligible costs. And of course, my employees have been logging in and out and working on these jobs over the course of the year. Realtrac has everything I need to know. I just need to get all this information out in a useful format. For my toolbox, I select the R&D job listing option, which brings up a window that looks pretty similar to our list jobs screen. It's going to have a few controls of interest and a few more columns than we're used to seeing, but we'll show those off in a second. First, I'm going to limit my display to only show me jobs I've tagged for this fiscal year. So I'm applying my RD15 tag. And I also am going to make sure my screen is set to pull in finished and closed jobs. Next, I need to tell Realtrac when my fiscal year started and stopped. My company happens to follow the calendar year, so I'm going to set my range from January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2015. If we now click on the Calculate R&D column button, Realtrac will look at every work session your employees logged into these jobs and only include work that took place during the fiscal year we set. This means that even if your R&D job started the year before or bleeds into the following year, you are able to provide the exact costs from your fiscal year. With this data filled in, we're now ready to produce our two reports. When filling out 6765, your tax professional is going to need three main pieces of information: a breakdown of the labor costs for your employee working on R&D eligible jobs during the fiscal year, a breakdown of the buyout costs for the R&D jobs incurred during the year, and a breakdown of the GS&A costs that were incurred by the R&D jobs running in your company. Realtrac will provide you the first two via our R&D report and our R&D labor report. So first, I'm going to run the R&D report. You can see this gives me the basic information on my job, customer, and part, and also gives us our material and subcontract costs. We also show the labor costs that was associated with the job, but your tax professional probably is going to need the same data in a slightly different format. Allow me to close the R&D report, and now we'll run our R&D labor report. You'll see when I run this report, we actually get the same total for our labor, but we present the information in a different manner that your CPA will likely need. As a side note, I will mention that both of these reports actually have a lot more information available. If your tax professional asks for other information, don't be shy in attempting to customize a report and adding the additional columns of data that they require. These two reports, in hand with an organizational chart and some information on your fixed expenses, are all you need to submit your Form 6765 and get your tax credit from the IRS. Thank you very much for your time and hope this helps you out. Thank you very much.